Hello, good afternoon. Time for the marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. Here are the business stories making headlines this hour. Ghana's economy records negative 3.4% growth in Q2, the first time since 1983. That's in 37 years. We'll hear from an economist on what he makes out of this startling statistic. Also, Qatar Airways set to begin scheduled flights to Accra from September 29. Plus, 400 Ghanaian diasporans and potential migrants benefit from a 4.5 million cedi German government fund support for vocational training. Hello once again. Now, the Center for Coastal Management of the University of Cape Coast has bemoaned the near collapse of the fisheries industry. Now, this comes after the fisheries sector recorded not much of a high growth rate in the agriculture sector in the second quarter of the year. But according to Professor Dennis Wolanyo Aheto, the open access to fisheries resources and unregulated fishing industry is killing the industry. He spoke to Joy Business at the town ahead of the town hall engagement with political parties on fisheries and coastal management challenges in the country.
Fisheries, particularly for the small pelagics, the Sardinella species are virtually collapsed. And we all do know that marine fisheries, particularly at the artisanal scale, contribute significantly to national development, because we do have about 3 million Ghanaians who depend on the fisheries. Obviously, not just the small pelagics, but also the large pelagics, the tunas, and so on. And so, over time, we have not really put in place adequate measures to sustain the fish stocks. And so issues of illegal, reported, or non-regulated fishing, where we've allowed foreign vessels into our oceans to mismanage our stocks to the detriment of Ghanaians, local fishers, has been an issue. We do have a challenge of open access fisheries for the artisanal small-scale fishers, and once the fisheries cannot be managed at that level, it becomes a problem. We also do have low institutional capacities to really, in terms of scientific and technical know-how, to address these challenges. And then the governance framework also needs to be strengthened. And it goes a lot more. And then even if you look at the coastal sector, it's not just the fish. We do have the challenges of pollution, poor sanitation, and eroding coastline. And obviously, as a coastal country, we need to be concerned.
Now, Ghana's economy has recorded a negative 3.4% growth in the second quarter of this year. Now, this is the first time since 1983. According to the figures released by the Ghana Statistical Service, the heavy fall is largely attributed to some restrictions on activities in the economy, which virtually came to a standstill during the period as a result of COVID-19. Ebenezer Sabote has more in the following report. According to the second quarter gross domestic product data, the hotel and restaurant subsector recorded the highest dip of 19.6%. It was followed by the trade, repairs of vehicle and household goods, pushing the services sector to record a contraction of 0.6%. Meanwhile, the country's agriculture sector expanded significantly by 2.5%. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Ening explains.
Further share with you quarterly GDP across the three sectors, starting with the agricultural sector. As indicated earlier, of the three sectors, that is agriculture, services, and industry sector subsectors, the agricultural sector was the only sector that saw an expansion in the second quarter of 2020. And this expansion of 2.5% that was recorded for the agricultural sector was mainly driven by the livestock subsector. Specifically, the livestock subsector grew by 5.7% on a year-on-year basis. The subsector within the agricultural sector that contracted over the period was the forestry and logging subsector, which contracted by 8.4%.
Industry, however, pushed the economy downwards, declining by 5.7% in the period. Even though there was a fall in the economic growth rate, the country's economy remained a service-led one.
The structure of the economy did not change that much with respect to sectoral distribution for Q2 2020. We have the services sector still dominating with 48%, and its equivalent is 38,847.6 million Ghana cedis. This is followed by the industry sector that contributes 33% of the overall GDP with a value of 26,981.1 million Ghana cedis. And the third sector, which is the agricultural sector, contributes to GDP of about a fifth, specifically 19%, with a value of 15,580.1 million Ghana cedis.
Meanwhile, provisional rebased quarterly growth estimates may be revised further based on the availability of additional data. Now, joining us via Zoom for some expert analysis on this development is economist Professor Peter Korte. Professor, we're so grateful that you joined us. First of all, what do you make of the latest GDP figures?
Good afternoon to your discerning viewers. Well, the figures are not surprising. We all know we went into a pandemic. We were struck by a pandemic. Nobody anticipated that. So we certainly expected a decline in output during the lockdown period, and then post-lockdown, economic activity eased slowly, and therefore we didn't expect much growth in output. So we're not surprised by the figures. But I must add that if you compare Ghana's record with other countries, if you take Nigeria, for instance, there was a decline in growth about 6.1%. And then if you compare with South Africa, which recorded a decline of 17.1%. So in as much as we are not too happy with the pandemic and the decline in growth, I think comparatively, we are not doing badly.
Well, so where do you feel our priorities must lie? Should it be among, more stimulus packages to help stimulate growth?
Well, certainly we have to stimulate growth, more stimulus packages, but the caveat should be that it should be non-debt finance, more revenue generation, non-tax income, for instance. We should explore more of that as well, trying to tax online businesses so we're able to generate the needed revenue to stimulate the private sector. We also have to stimulate demand. You see, if you provide stimulus packages to businesses and yet demand is not there, they will produce, but there won't be the necessary demand to back or to be able to accommodate whatever is supplied. So certainly you have to look at both sides, stimulate demand and also stimulate supply through the private sector initiatives.
Professor Peter Korte, they also argument that if the economy is diversified, it could also help minimize the shocks. What's your take on that?
Well, certainly we need to diversify our economy. If you look at what happened, well, we have diversified a bit. We don't rely too much on oil like some countries have done. That's why we've seen agriculture grow by 2.5%. But I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. In terms of agriculture, we have focused too much on small-scale farmers. That is good, but we need to also look at large-scale farming practices where we support the large-scale farmers who will then support the outgrower scheme. Our support has also been limited to production. We have to look at the value chain. So right from production to marketing, distribution, storage, processing, we need to support the respective value chain processes so that our economy will be much more diversified. Whatever we get from oil, we should invest in other parts of the economy so that we don't become too concentrated in one sector.
Well, taking a closer look at the outlook, do you expect a marginal pickup in growth instead of a contraction?
I'll be more positive towards a growth than a contraction because the period we are looking at up to June, the data we are looking at is up to June. That is when the restrictions were much more severe. But then from June, the airports have been opened. We've seen a gradual relaxation of the restrictions, of course, with respecting the various protocols, a gradual relax the restrictions. So I expect economic activity to pick up The opening of the airport, for instance, if we do what we are expected to do, would ensure that tourism would boom, the hotels and restaurants would also see some activity. That can also affect demand for agricultural products and through the various linkages, industry and many others. So I expect some modest growth rates in the next 2 quarters. Granted that nothing untoward happens, granted that we respect the various protocols, I think we are likely to pick up.
Professor Peter Koto, we're so grateful that you joined us. He's an economist helping us understand the recent figures from the Ghana Statistical Service regarding the contraction of Ghana's economy in the first, second quarters of, this year, the lowest in 37 years. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. To stay. And welcome back to the marketplace. Now, Qatar Airways is set to begin 4 weekly scheduled flights to Accra via Lagos from September 29. Now, I'm joined currently by my colleague, George Riafi, to help us understand the impact this is going to have on the tourism sector and the economy at large. Many thanks, George, for joining me. So we have seen the commercial. This is good news for the tourism sector. But what's going to be the impact?
Well, it's going to be a lot for the economy. Now, Qatar is not the only airline that is coming in as we open our international airport for international travels. We also understand that all our things being equal, United Airlines will also commence scheduled flight from Washington, D.C. to Accra next year. It means a lot because you realize from even the GDP figures about how a tank in the hotel and restaurant subsectors actually pull down the economy to contract. If these people come here, we understand that when these people come into this country, they spend a minimum about $500. So if you are providing an avenue for people to move from the Far East, a lot of Ghanaians fly to the Far East, a lot of people want to come in, the Chinese and all the rest, that is going to aid in the pickup of our economy. These guys are going to come inside, they're going to spend a lot of money. Don't forget that when an airline flies into your economy, it has a whole impact on the whole value economy. You're talking about these airlines coming in, you have cargo handling services, you also have people who do the taxi, the staff that are going to employ even at the Kotoka International Airport to help with their underground luggage and all the rest. So it's going to even more boost employment as well for those who are going to work for the airline. Don't forget about the hotel industry as well, bringing in these passengers. So it's going to go a long way to help in the open up the economy, those who are going to spend and having to fly. This is the area of region where we have the very big spenders because of the oil industry and all the rest. So it's more of a major boost for our economy in terms of having this scheduled flight 4 times a week from Qatar to Accra.
But how is it going to impact on competition so far? Because they're coming on board in the wake of COVID-19, new restrictions, new regulations from IATA. How is the competition going to be like?
Competition can look at it in several ways. Now, if you want to look at the Accra Far East route, that is being dominated by Emirates, even though Qatar was doing cargo services. So now there's some competition there. Now, if you want to go to the Far East from Accra, you can try Qatar or Emirates. It means that could end up forcing the price down because you have 2 giants in the industry when it comes to operating the Far East that are in here. So they might be forced to, again, beat themselves up and trying to offer some very competitive rate for you. So that is also going to help you as a consumer to choose that which airline is going to offer you the best in terms of a very competitive ticket pricing. And also, we don't forget that some of these airlines also have other benefits as well, even in terms of tourist travels and all the rest. You can have these airlines saying, listen, we can give it to you about maybe $2,000, a hotel, a tourist facility as well. And you're going to get all those things. So it's going to go a long way maybe to impact pricing and also give people the opportunity to choose in terms of if you want to go to the Far East, which airline do you want to travel with? Do you want to do Emirates or do you want to do Qatar? Even though Qatar is not going to fly directly to Accra, it's going to do Lagos before Accra. Emirates is also going to do directly to Accra. So you have options to choose, and which one is going to offer you the best price ticket. So that is how you're going to help you as a consumer to shop around and look at which airline is going to offer you the best ticket for you to travel to the Far East, connect to all the countries in the Far East, Charles.
Many thanks, George, for that particular analysis there. We just have to look forward to September 29 to see how things go. Many thanks for the analysis. Well, moving on from that particular assessment of Qatar's coming on board on Ghana's airspace, government in collaboration with Germany has trained some 400 Ghanaian diasporans and potential migrants in various vocational skills. The project, which was launched in 2018, was christened Short-Term Skills Training for Ghanaians returning from the diaspora and potential migrants. My colleague Bismarck Awusa was at the National Vocational Training Institute graduation ceremony, which was graced by the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo. He's brought this report.
The hard skills component of the project was provided by the National Vocational Training Institute, NVTI, in 11 skill areas. In all, 26 NVTI accredited institutions drawn from public and private vocational training institutes as well as mastercraft persons were involved in the training. At the graduation ceremony, which was held in Accra, 213 trainees graduated in 11 skill areas, bringing the total of trainee beneficiaries to 400. A total of 293 females and 107 males benefited from the training. Guest speaker at the event and First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo commended the German government for the funding support.
Let me extend our sincere gratitude to the German government for committing a total of 4.5 million Ghana cedis to the Migration and Employment Promotion Project. You have positioned yourselves as Ghana's key partner in the area of TVET. We look forward to more collaborations as we also emulate your model of using TVET as a pivot for industrialization as part of government's flagship One District, One Factory program.
The First Lady also indicated that government has so far spent not less than $600 million on technical and vocational training.
The government of Ghana has already spent $600 million on TVET in the last 3.5 years. A commitment that has yielded substantial dividends in development, in infrastructure, and human resource. This is a government that is committed to resolving the unemployment situation, empowering the youth, and creating sustainable livelihoods for its citizens.
For the executive director of the NVTI, Mausi Awiti, her outfit has positioned itself to be the bedrock of TVET in Ghana, stating that with the right support, the NVTI will redefine skills training at the pre-tertiary level for an enhanced skilled labor force for the industry in Ghana and beyond. One of the trainee beneficiaries, Rita Boaten, had this to say.
It's really going to help me a lot because even with these that I've acquired, we have been given certificates. So with the knowledge that I've acquired, I'm going to start my own business. I am interested in bread making. So fortunately for me, I'll get an oven today. So I have to get some baking sheets and flour and other things, and I can start making bread to church to sell for now. Then maybe if later I can get my own shop.
The short-term skills training for Ghanaians returning from the diaspora and potential migrants project was under the Migration and Employment Program of PSED of GIZ and was held in 3 project regions, namely Accra, Kumasi, and Bono Ahafo. Bismarck Awusa, JoyNews.
Now, the National Labour Commission says it has seen drastic reduction in the number of cases filed on a daily basis at the Commission due to COVID-19. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Ofosu Asamoah, is calling on the establishment of regional offices across the country. My colleague Nicholas Brown has more in this development.
Statistics available at the National Labour Commission reveals that out of a total number of complaints of 4,686 lodged with the Commission, 2,093 of it were fully settled. This was between the periods of July 2005 to December 2011. The total number of cases recorded were made up of summary dismissal, unfair termination, retirement and end of service benefits, as well as unpaid salaries, among a host of others. The Executive Secretary of the Commission, Ofosu Asamoah, has been explaining to Joy Business the kind of cases filed at the Commission during this COVID-19 period.
What we now have most is non-payment of salary and wages and termination. You know, most contracts, right, by virtue of the COVID, were abrogated. If I engage you as a teacher in my private school and schools are closed down, certainly the contracts, it will be very difficult to go ahead with. But there are no students to teach.
But
right?
there are also rules and regulations set under the
let's say, guidelines if we set under the Labor Acts for employers to go through if they want to terminate contract and what have you. So obviously you can't just go ahead and terminate a worker's contract.
Yes, that is so. Yeah, that is what I said, that you have to give them notice, right? That you will be terminating the contract, or they give you notice. So when we talk of termination, it's a seizure of the contract. Even if you die, the contract is terminated.
The Commission is also pushing for establishment of regional offices across the country to facilitate enforcement of its labor rulings. According to the Commission, this was influenced by delays in enforcing its ruling, which has impacted negatively on many industrial disputes. The Commission currently has about 5 regional offices in the country, which it believes is not enough.
You are a member of NAT. You are in Pualugu. You are a member of Nurses and Midwives this thing. You are in Kintampo. Somebody is in Kede, right? You are paying dues. And when, in case you have a problem, you can't access justice because everybody is in Accra. How many of them have pressed their people that let us use some of our money to support the Commission to open offices?
As part of the Commission's activities, hearing of cases takes place every Wednesday at the Commission's conference room. And due to COVID-19, they have had to adjust their time to sitting at least 3 times in a way. And it is amazing to note that between 25 and 30 cases are heard on each sitting day. Now, apart from the sittings on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, there are other hearings such as facilitation, mediation, and arbitration that takes place on a daily basis.
Now, women still remain significantly underrepresented in boardrooms of listed companies in Ghana. That's according to the Board Diversity Index, a new report released by the Board Africa in partnership with the Ghana Stock Exchange. Among the 37 companies listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange, women hold only 23% of board seats and 24% of non-executive director seats. Now, this figure represents a 3% increase in board seats held by women and a 4% increase in non-executive director seats held by women from 2019. The Board Diversity Index shows that women are rarely included in the governance and management of some of Ghana's most notable companies. The 2020 Board Diversity Index reveals that the most common role held by women across most companies is the position of corporate secretary. That's quite stressing to hear. Well, that's how we end this edition of The Marketplace. I'm Charles Ayete.